Hi, this is Chris Bertelsen with a quick clip from Nevada Learning Series. Here I will explain the difference between absolute and relative formulas in Microsoft Excel 2010. Understanding the difference between relative and absolute cell references is fundamental to building more flexible formulas. Let's write a formula here in D4 that's going to divide 40 by 100 to come up with a percent of shares. So what this formula says is, as I sit there in D4, I'm going to go relatively over one column and then relatively down 4 rows and grab whatever value is there. So that's 40%. If we fill this formula down and look at what happens in cell, it's going over 1 because it's a relative formula, and then it's going down 4 and grabbing the value down there, in this case 0, and you can't divide by 0, so that formula is broken. And what we really need to do to make it work is change the number on the bottom to 100. So we change that cell reference to C8, and now that formula is going to work. But if I have 50 or 100 of these formulas to do in a column, that's a lot of work, and it's more error prone if I have to go in and hand tune each one of those. There's a better way to do that, and that's by creating an absolute reference to that number on the bottom. Now you've seen absolute cell references before. You probably didn't realize it. They have little dollar signs in them. By putting a dollar sign in front of the C and in front of the 8, I say that I'm absolutely going down to row 8, column C. No matter where the formula is, that's what we're going to use to divide by. So that works for 40%. Now we do a fill down with Control D, and you can see that it works with the rest of those. Let's take a look at one. Here it says go over 1. That's the relative part of the formula, and then it absolutely divides by the value it finds in C8, in this case 100. Now if you want to change these, you could go in and you could type that by hand, or you can also just cursor into it and push the F4 key, and it'll rotate through the various states of absolute for column, relative, absolute to row and column, or just absolute to the row. And I found that you can even select both formulas, push the F4 key, and as long as they're not nested in parentheses, they'll all change to whatever state of absolute or relative you desire. Now let's try it again over here. Now what we want to do is we want to take this sales amount and divide that or multiply that by our sales tax amount, our 5%. So the relative part is the sales amount. That's going to change depending on the row where we write the formula, but we're absolutely going to multiply by the value down here in I9 for that 5% sales tax. So we fill this down, and it does the correct thing because the other part of that is an absolute cell reference. It's pretty simple once you understand it, but it is fundamental to building flexible formulas in Excel 2010. This has been a quick clip from Nevada Learning Series, helping you get the most out of Microsoft Office.